All right, coming to you from our studios here in downtown Summerlin at City National Arena. Great to have you with us. Also on all of our social media situations, Twitter, Twitch, the YouTube, and the Facebook. Two play-by-play guys in the same room. What a dream this is, or some would say a nightmare. Dave Goucher and Dan D'Uva. Glad you could join us here on this Monday. What do we got for a date today, Dan? The 4th of April. Time's just flying by. We got back late last night, relatively late last night, from Vancouver/Seattle, over the border, and back to Vegas. You know what I love the most about getting off the plane? A, we were back in Vegas, and B, the warmth. Even at a late hour, I think it was 67 degrees.
Got off the airplane, and I forget who I was talking to because it was really late, so I apologize. It could have been you for all I remember, Dave, but I turned to somebody, I said, I could get used to this. No rain. Of course, we just had, 36 hours of straight rain between Seattle and Vancouver, and, it was nice to be back. And now they'll be back for a couple of games.
I was saying that after on TV last night, that their schedule has it's lightened up finally, right? Yeah. A little bit, a little breather. Game Wednesday, then not another game till Saturday, then right back to Canada. But for a stretch there with 16 games in 31 days in March, it's at least for us a little breather before they get back into the teeth of it again.
Yeah, so it's Wednesday against Vancouver. Then they don't play again until Saturday against Arizona. Then they don't play again until Tuesday in Vancouver, and then it's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So at least those 3 games on the road, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton. There's 1 day in between. But the next few games here, there's 2 days in between. I don't remember the last time there was that sort of rhythm with as much time in between games. It's better than having, 5 days in between games than playing back-to-back, which we saw in February. This is, Dave, you can see it a little bit with some of the teams the Knights have gone up against recently, perhaps Seattle. There's that exhaustion that creeps in. A team's playing well, and then all of a sudden it just breaks. And it's impossible to gauge that one team to the next, or one player to the next for that matter. But you wonder if a couple of extra days in here might allow the Knights to get over the hump, just based on the way that they played against Vancouver last night, the start versus the rest.
They looked like when the third period clicked in last night, especially they gave up the early goal, right, to Miller, that they were taking on some water and hung in there. They were able to hang in there. We were joking after the game, and I'm sure you guys, you and Darren Elliott mentioned it on the air at the time. So the Canucks come back, they tie the game. And then you think the clock's going to run out, and all of a sudden Tyler Myers is wide open in front of the net. Oof. And no offense to Tyler Myers, but he, has 1 goal all year, hasn't scored in 17 games. If that's Garland, Besser, a high-end skilled guy, especially a right shot in that position, they lose that game potentially in regulation and get nothing out of it after going into the third period up 2-0. So every once in a while, it's good. It's nice to have a little good fortune on your side. But they were that close to leaving that building with absolutely no points out of it.
You got a feeling that the good fortune was not on their side when Vegas gets charged with an own goal.
Yeah.
When's the last time you saw an own goal?
I don't know.
Face-off. Horvat takes it, so he gets credit for the goal, but he doesn't win the face-off. The puck comes back towards the net. Right, towards the net. Alec Martinez reaches in. He's trying to tap it away from the net mouth so it doesn't go to a Canuck in front. Tips it right through Leonard's legs.
It's a heck of a tip.
Yeah.
And you have to feel like Martinez was just, we had him, shot him on the bench. He's just like,
can't believe it.
Goodness, But to their credit, able to pull it out. We were leaving. You probably were still doing some radio duty. Shane and I walked by the locker room after the game last night to get to the bus, and it just so happened Jonathan Marchessault was grabbing some post-game food in the hallway, and we said, have we something we joked around, have they caught the sniper yet that caught you in overtime? And he said, how about that? I went from 0 to hero in about less than 10 seconds. Falls down along the wall, gets up, but to his credit, wins the battle, leads them up the ice, and then Shea Theodore takes it from there.
Yeah, Shea with game-winning goals in 3 straight. We had Will Carlson on the radio post-game show, and I asked, Will, what did you see on the game-winning goal? How'd that happen? And he said, well, I saw Marshy fall over. He was on the ice. We laughed, and And then he joked also that, tried to go up ice as quick as we could, and Shea Theodore was a little faster than me. And so he got the goal. But he drew all the attention coming down the slide.
Yeah, first Golden Knights defenseman ever to score in 3 consecutive games, right? Shea Theodore, and to your point, not nothing goals, game winners in all 3, right? And the game in Vancouver, the second game, I mean, it's ends up 5-2, but there's a couple empty netters in there. If you didn't listen or watch the game, you think, well, it was a lot closer. It turned out to be a lot closer than it probably would have been anyway. So he looks like a different guy, and we talked with I believe Ryan McGill maybe about this in Seattle since Braden McNabb came back, and just that comfortability. Is that the word? Comfortability of them being close enough.
I know what you meant.
Of them being back together.
There's a comfort factor.
There's a
Dave.
comfort level. Thank you. I knew you could say it much better than me. Of having McNabb back there, and just Theodore kind of can do his thing offensively, and he knows he's got that security blanket with McNabb back there,
and the familiarity as well, and that he's not pressed into service in situations where he would not ideally play. In other words, in a perfect world, Shea Theodore is not on the penalty kill. But with Martinez and McNabb and Haig unavailable, I mean, Shea has been a regular on the penalty kill because they've had to. It's the physical side of it. It's the mental side of it. You can just zero in on the stuff that you're supposed to be doing. You get the right matchups. Just the number of things that fall into place. To say nothing of the actual contributions that McNabb and Martinez have made since coming back to the lineup. And that doesn't even include the emotional boost. And Martinez and his leadership, he's the oldest guy in the room now. And, Jack Eichel and others have intimated Alex's presence right after the 3-0 first and second period against Chicago. Martinez words to spark the comeback. But, yeah, it seems like all of those things lead to, plus the fact that Shea is going back to the city where he played in the WHL for 4 years, then his home province of British Columbia. It was a homecoming for Shea Theodore. Knights hadn't been in that part of the country in a couple of years. So everything lined up for Shea Theodore. The return of those guys, the homecoming of sorts, and boy, it has been needed for the Knights.
Needed points. We mentioned last night when they got to overtime, they got to 81 points. They desperately needed to get to 82. You're taking on these teams, Dan, and I think I've kind of learned over the last stretch of time where the Golden Knights are with their lineup right now, and still with 8 regulars out, right, with 6 forwards, a defenseman, and a goaltender. You get Pacioretty, Smith, Stone, Howden, Patrick, Carrier.
All in one breath.
All in one breath. And then on the back end, Nick Hague and Laurent Brossoit in net. So still 8 regulars out. They did get Keegan Colasar back last night. Keegan was unable to go in the second game in Seattle. Point being that, to a degree, regardless of who they're playing, like Seattle's done, right? They're not going to be in the playoffs. Vancouver, if they had any hope, was going to have to sweep the 3 games they had with Vegas. That's done. But where their lineup is right now, the opponent almost doesn't matter. It's, can they get it all together? Can they get some semblance of it together? And just, you think about on the last week plus alone, to your point, Martinez coming back against the Hawks. You got McNabb back the other night. Then you get Robin Leonard back last night. So, you try to be an optimist. Can they cobble together some sense of what they thought they were going to have? I guess we'll find out here over the next, 24 days, 25 days anyways.
I have often thought in recent days about what Paul Maurice said about the Golden Knights in the fall of 2017. In that, with Marc-Andre Fleury getting injured in the 4th game of the season against Detroit, what they did in the next 2 months while Fleury was out, the team had to figure out how to play without leaning on their goaltender. And I wonder if this group that has been here for the last couple of months, and I'm taking out the fall. I'm just talking about since the All-Star break, because it's a different group than we saw in the fall. The group that has been here in the lineup regularly since the All-Star break, and figuring it out, if perhaps that they have figured something out, how to not lean on certain aspects of the game, so that when significant pieces do return, the team is that much better off for it. Hey, maybe it's enough. Maybe it's not. They've won 5 straight, which equals their longest winning streak of the season. They're going to need to either extend this streak, or if it ends, start another one real quick. It is going to take that kind of an effort here, and maybe a couple of reinforcements, not the whole cavalry, just a couple of reinforcements have arrived just in the nick of time.
They're what 10 to go now? 11 to go?
11 to go.
11 to go. They're at 82 points. You know, you play this game every year. How many points is it going to take to get in? I'll tell you what, this year it might take 96 to get in, right? So with 11 to go, if they won 7, if they go 7-4 down the stretch, that gets them to 96, right? Right now, the Golden Knights are in the second wild card spot. They're tied with Nashville, but you got to look at the games played, right? Nashville's got 3 in hand. Dallas Stars lost last night, so the Golden Knights got a little help there. They're at 81, a point back, but 3 games in hand. Edmonton Oilers don't seem like they're going to slow down anytime soon. They win last night. Leon Draisaitl gets to 50 goals. They've opened up a 3-point cushion on the Golden Knights, but only with 1 game in hand. So I've often wondered, Dan, as we, and I know Pete DeBoer has said this, look, we focus on trying to win tonight, and then we'll focus on trying to win the next game. Like they can't, and I think for them, what's the use of looking at the big picture? It can be too, maybe overwhelming. Doesn't mean we can't look at it.
That's right. And we will.
And we will. I just look at the 3-game trip, not this week, but next, back to Canada, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, and then that 3-game trip to end the season. Dallas. That Dallas game to me just jumps off the page of would it come down to that?
Mm-hmm.
Chicago's out of it, obviously. The Blues.
It could be the Blues, too.
It
I mean,
could
the
be the
last
Blues
game of the
game,
season, it's conceivable that game could be win or go home.
Yeah.
The Knights or the Blues. Either one.
You just got to hope they get to that, right?
Right.
The games played thing could potentially be the issue. The Golden Knights and the Kings have played the most games in the league, right, at 71 going into, tonight's games. But, to their credit, they had no choice, and they've left themselves no margin for error. I mean, it was almost imperative they get 6 points out of this trip against teams that are going to miss the playoffs, and expansion team in Seattle, and then Vancouver. That's why last night but it almost fell apart late in regulation. I was like, oh heavens, what's happening?
Right. And when we had gone back through the March schedule and you looked at that 5-game trip, you think, okay, well, 3, maybe 4 of these are not, for sure wins, but you could put a couple of points in the bank for it, and they went over. They had a chance to get 10 points, got none. So these games become a greater imperative, as you said. I thought about the Kings when they came to Vegas, and the Knights pretty much had their way with Los Angeles. And the Kings were banged up, and I thought that loss against Vegas was going to be the rug out from under their feet, and then they were going to start to fall off. They really have not.
No.
Now, as you mentioned, games played, they're right there with Vegas, and only 4 points ahead. They're playing Calgary tonight. Like, I wonder if the Kings, we're looking at the teams that are just 1 or 2 points ahead of the Golden Knights. The Kings right now are 4 ahead. But can the Kings maintain this without the people that they have? Again, it's, 4 points. Like, if you were to take all the teams out of it and just say that Edmonton was out of it or securing a spot in the wild card stuff, it was just Los Angeles and Vegas, you would say, hey, the Knights have a shot to overtake the Kings. If it were only those teams. We're kind of putting the Kings aside because there are other teams in between. I'm interested to see how the Kings go down the stretch here. Like I said, they play Calgary today, and I'm going to be watching that game.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you mentioned how banged up they are, Dan, and I'm just kind of looking here at a most recent list of their injuries. And, the Golden Knights would say, cry me a river. We've dealt with this all year. But Drew Doughty, Sean Walker's done for the year. Dustin Brown, Brendan Lemieux, Andreas Athanasiou, Matt Roy, Mikey Anderson. So Anderson and Doughty, their top D pair. Blake Lizotte. So like the Golden Knights, 8 players out of their lineup. Now you can look. The Golden Knights have 3 of their top 6 out in Stone, Pacioretty, and Smith. I get that. Nick Hague's been one of their mainstays on the back end this year. So you can, if you want to go through, well, who's more valid? I'm just saying that each team has 8 guys out of the lineup right now in the final 3 weeks of the season. And I to your point, Dan, I thought, can they hang in there? I don't know. We'll see. The other point before we go to break is, the Golden Knights have beaten here. Back to the, they lost to these teams that are out of the play. They've beaten some good teams here lately.
Yeah.
Right? They beat Florida. The Kings are a good team. Good win over Nashville. Yeah, with guys hurt, come back, lose a guy. It's the fact they're hanging around and where they're at right now. This could have gone down the drain a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
And it
Oh
hasn't,
my goodness.
so,
And it looked like it was. It looked like the toilet bowl was spinning there. But
spinning in the wrong direction.
But they managed to figure it out, and just in the nick of time. And then from game to game, the different factors of players coming back, or the emotional boost that happens from like just a fortunate bounce in a game that turns everything around. Or we're thinking that second intermission against Chicago, this is it.
Yeah.
This is going to be the demise right here, that they could not find a way to have a better performance, not just fail to win, but not have a better showing against the Blackhawks in that game. And what do you know?
Yeah.
What do you know?
Next thing you know, just keep it tuned in on the radio. You heard overtime
That's
goal
right.
from.
If you left the game early and tuned in on the radio on the way home, we did our best.
You were trying to make a U-turn in your car.
Geez.
What am I missing here? Well,
Can't leave early.
No. Dave Goucher, Dan D'Uva, great to have all of you with us here at nighttime at noon on a Monday. The Golden Knights coming off sweeping the 3-game road trip through Seattle and Vancouver. Quick reminder for you that the Craggy Range is the perfect place to enjoy a pregame or postgame meal, or come to watch your Knights on one of Craggy Range's big screen TVs or the huge outdoor LED screen. Enjoy your favorite craft beer, wine, bourbon, or all kinds of cocktails while you catch all the action. You can find a full menu for the whole family, plus a full bar with 16 beers on tap. Craggy Range at the Dollar Loan Center, and even features an extended patio as well. So check it out, the Craggy Range Sports Bar and Grill. It's open daily, no ticket required. Dave and Dan with you on nighttime at noon. Lots more to come. We're gonna get into who did it better. The overtime goal last night in Vancouver.
I don't remember what I said.
I don't either. Somebody asked me after the game. I said, all that crap happens too fast.
He
in real
scored.
time." I don't know. He scored. They won the game.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're gonna get into that next. Us two yapping away in overtime last night. That's after this on Fox Sports Las Vegas. Great to have you with us here from our downtown Summerlin studios at City National Arena. Make sure to stop by CNA, located right here in the heart of downtown Summerlin. Bring the family to learn to skate like the pros at the official practice rink and facility of your Vegas Golden Knights. For hours and programming, visit citynationalarena.com. Dave Goucher, Dan D'Uva, delighted to have you with us here as the Golden Knights. They're enjoying one of their best runs of the season. They have won 5 in a row. Of course, they went on that. Their best month to this point was back in December when they ripped off 5 straight. That was part of a big road trip, too, for them, Dan. They swept that trip, Boston, New Jersey, the Rangers, and the Islanders. A little shorter trip this time around, but they sweep the 3 on the road here through Seattle and Vancouver. They had that stretch. They had lost 7 in a row. Well, let me back up. They had been on a real good run on the road, before that trip east back last month. Then they lose all 5 in regulation, and then they lost a couple more in Winnipeg and Minnesota. So they carry a 7-game losing streak into this most recent road trip, and, well, they decided it's time to take care of that, which they did, winning 3 in a row. So.
Yeah, well, it's. I always wonder about the splits, the home road splits.
Yeah.
Whereas at some point this year, you're wondering how come the Knights are playing so much better on the road than they are at home. Home record not nearly as good as it had been in previous seasons. And now, if you looked at only the last few weeks, you'd think, oh, wow, the Knights is a home team. Their home record is 20-13-3, and now the road record is 19-15-1. So their home record is now better, even after going 3-0 on the road.
5 in a row they've won at home, and 6 of 7 now, right? Going into these next 2, the Canucks again on Wednesday, and then Arizona on Saturday. So hopefully, they can continue to put points in the bank here. A fight to the finish to get in the playoffs for the Golden Knights. Much different than what we've been used to in the short history of this franchise. This has not been an issue. It's been where they're going. Not a question of if they're going to make it, but where they're going to finish. What's the matchup going to be in the first round? This is something altogether different.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, remember that the Knights were kind of a good team, but in terms of playoff standing, they weren't in a position to move up. But they were also so far ahead of the pack that they really had no risk of falling out of it. They were just stuck.
Yeah.
And so the last few weeks of the season were, I don't want to just say on cruise control, but it just didn't feel like a hunt. At least in that first year, there was some interest in winning the division. So that was, they were clearly going to make the playoffs, but you wanted to have a top spot, and they did have home ice advantage against Los Angeles and San Jose. That turned out to be instrumental that first year. So this is different. That the playoff hunts have a different feel when you're wire to wire. The more drama, Dave.
And I think too, Dan. The point about the years where they just kind of they were stuck, right? They weren't stuck in a good way, but sometimes that can be not the best scenario, right? You do there is a level of comfort. Pete DeBoer made this point I think last week. There are teams every year that are playing playoff hockey for a month before the playoffs get here, just to get into the playoffs. We've seen in times past the LA Kings, their 2 cup years, right? They were 6th and 8th in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Now, look, it's interesting to note, Tampa Bay's won back-to-back cups. They did not win the division either year.
No.
The year they ran away with everything,
trophy,
they were out in 4 straight.
That did not turn out well.
So, yeah,
you can probably find enough examples both ways.
Yep.
And I do wonder how it affects different teams different ways, different players different ways. And we've thought about this not just as the Golden Knights as a team, but also individual players. And we thought about it also with like Nikita Kucherov with Tampa Bay. You miss so much time. Okay, you get him back for the playoffs. And the Knights are hopeful that they can get some players back here, whether down the stretch or, fingers crossed, postseason. Just because they're back, does that mean that they can be themselves?
Right.
And we've talked about Jack Eichel trying to find his way back in. Now, it's a different story with Jack, had the surgery and had missed about a year. You just don't know which guy is going to be able to find his game and make a meaningful contribution in these, condensed moments of down the stretch, 11 games to go, or perhaps a best-out-of-7 series.
Kucherov handled it okay. Led the league in playoff scoring for the 2nd year in a row, but, he was just fine with it. All right. So let's set the scene. Last night, Golden Knights are in Vancouver. They've got a 2-0 lead. Turns into a 2-2 game. Almost lost it in the last second of regulation. So, It goes to overtime. So what we're going to do here is, this is.
And overtime started inauspiciously,
yes,
too.
that didn't look very good.
No.
Horvat goes in. Theodore loses the puck.
Oh.
To his credit, gets back.
Yes, great recovery. Leonard makes a great save,
yes.
too.
So they get out of that little pickle, and overtime continues. It wasn't double-check my detailed notes here, Dan. Just about 2 minutes into overtime, where the Golden Knights end up winning the game. So we're going to play Dan's call. You heard it, of course, right here last night on Fox Sports Las Vegas. And then my yapping away along with, what's his name there? Shane on the TV side.
The sheriff.
So the sheriff. But so just kind of, this is a play-by, want to hear more of ourselves talking. Here's what it sounded like last night. Here's Dan first on the overtime winner.
It's a 3-on-1. Marchessault with Carlson and Theodore. Marchessault to the middle. Theodore scores! Vegas in overtime. Shea Theodore wins it for Vegas. An appropriate hero in Vancouver. The Knights defeat the Canucks 3-2. 3 goals in 3 games for Shea Theodore. He wins it for the Knights. They've won 5 in a row.
Well, I tell you.
I didn't screw it up too
No,
bad.
that was terrific. Appropriate hero, worked in the 5-game winning streak, all that stuff.
What you might have heard at the beginning of the call, if we had dialed it back just a few seconds, was Marchessault falling over in his own zone.
All right. So I think if you play the schmuck here that does the TV,
The other guy.
I think you're going to hear that something happened to Marchessault right before he led them up the ice. Here's AT&T Sportsnet with their 2 guys.
Marchessault feeds it back for Carlson. Marchessault hit the deck, and the puck comes to him, regains his feet, able to win the battle and start it out. Carlson, Marchessault, Theodore, Marchessault walking in, out of Theodore, and he scores! Shea Theodore, the overtime winner, goals in 3 straight for Theodore, and the Golden Knights sweep the road trip.
Here's Marchessault. Let's go back to the defensive end. Watch him. He falls on the wall. Battling the wall. He's going to go down again. He wins the battle. And now he's off to the races. And he's going to feed this over to Theodore. Kind of has it. And on the second attempt, he can't get a shot away initially, but stays with it and puts it past Demko. And Shea Theodore's 11th of the season. 3-game winning goals for Shea Theodore. And the Golden Knights, a massive 2 points.
Shea Theodore, his 6th career overtime goal.
So there you go. And before they cut it, the 5th he's had with Vegas.
Right, 5 with Vegas, yeah.
So, yeah, that's what it sounded like.
Not bad, Dave.
Yeah, it's all right. In real time, I never really know. And I always have to go back and listen to it.
People ask,
I don't know.
You get on the bus or somebody asks you, I have no idea what I said. I said what I saw.
That's right. That's the
That's
essence
all.
of the job.
That's all. We got all these papers and all
Yeah.
these. I mean, you can see in
right.
front of Dave if you're watching the video
Yeah,
stream too.
all sorts
We
of
got all
junk.
these papers, and you throw it all out the window if you just say he shoots. He scores.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, yeah, there you go. So that was
All right, not bad.
That wasn't bad. I don't know, a couple of guys just yapping away. And, yeah, it was pretty good. Pretty good. You always, because your fear is on those, you screw it up, and then you got to live with it.
Oh,
and I'm sure I've done that, but
Yeah.
it's you'd rather avoid it if you can. So, yeah, that's what it sounded like.
Yeah,
Last night.
yeah. The the commentary, as we mentioned a moment ago, from Will Carlson in the postgame interview, to see Jonathan fall over, and I said to Darren Elliott on the radio, when Jonathan goes down and he tries to get back up, I thought he was first going to try to turn in more of a protective posture toward the corner in his own zone to make sure that nobody for Vancouver would have a chance to try to bring it towards Robin Leonard. And he faked out everybody and then turned up ice. And then all of a sudden, there's a ton of open ice.
Yeah.
Oh, there's 2 more guys. Oh, this is a 3-on-1.
Yeah. Well, Marchessault had chipped it kind of back to Carlson, and I forget who it was for the Canucks. It's kind of right where
Yeah.
Carlson is, so Carlson tried to give the puck back to him, and Marchessault fell down. But managed to get up
And Shea
make a
showing off
heck of
the
a
speed.
play.
There were a couple of, Shea overall had a terrific series. The 3 games on the road. Obviously played in Seattle, WHL for 4 years. He's from British Columbia. His family was in attendance for the games. There were a couple of moments in that game, in particular, the last one, where, maybe just there was a breakout pass that wasn't on target, or, as we said, to start overtime, Horvat, picks his pocket a little bit. And even with those little things, Shea finds a way to push through and steals the show. I mean, there were some very important players on the road trip, but clearly, what Shea does, and he'd gone a while since scoring a goal.
Yeah.
And then he gets not just one, not two, but 3 in a row, all game winners. I mean, what a story for him. And that's the kind of guy that you want to step up at this time of the year.
You can't make it up. Back to Vancouver, back to where he played in Seattle in the West. And, yeah, just couldn't have worked out better for him and the team, right, at a time when they really needed it.
And we've asked guys about – I asked Will Carlson on the postgame show, where is this team right now with 11 games to go? And he says, I think we're finding our confidence. And, Will's another one who hasn't had the sort of, he does so many great things. We know that. But the production, he's got 10 goals. That's far shy of the 43 he had in the inaugural season. You're not going to expect that every year, but you get the idea. For guys who maybe haven't had great runs or a great overall season, to find that little bit of confidence right now, what kind of a difference that can make, whether it's a young guy, whether it's a veteran guy, or somewhere in between. It's hard to put a price tag on the value of confidence.
Well, the Golden Knights, a huge road trip, winning all 3 to certainly keep themselves right in the heart of the playoff race in the West. The VGK right now at 82 points, tied for that second wild card spot, 1 up on Dallas. Of course, the Stars have 3 games at hand, but fell in Seattle last night. So Dave Goucher, Dan D'Uva with you on Nighttime at noon on Fox Sports Las Vegas, also all of our social media sites as well. We're going to step aside. When we come back, we'll kind of take a little deeper look into what the Golden Knights have left on their schedule. We're going to hear from head coach Pete DeBoer, his comments after the game last night, and get into it in a little more depth too, Dan, that Robin Lehner last night, good when he needed to be, really good at times in that game.
26 days in between starts.
Third time on the shelf this year, right? Coming back, and when they need to, and need to have everyone on board to try to push for the playoffs. But lots more to come after this on Fox Sports Las Vegas.
We need every win we can get, and guys are rallying. They're digging deep. We've got a short lineup, almost every night here. We're asking for different contributions from all kinds of different people, and guys are stepping up and giving us that. I thought Lenny did a great job tonight coming in after being out for a month. Gave us a real good game.
Is the voice of Golden Knights head coach Pete DeBoer after his team wrapped up that 3-game swing with their third straight win on the trip, 5 in a row over and all. You heard him mention Lenny, Robin Lehner, who had missed the previous dozen. He had missed 10 with the injury, backed up the previous 2 behind Logan Thompson. And, last night the Golden Knights come out, terrific start in that game in Vancouver, right? They, I think I had it at 10-1, maybe the shots for the Golden Knights early, build a 2-0 lead, but he also, and I asked Shane, and I'm not sure if he hasn't played in close to a month. He comes out in the first 10, 12 minutes. He doesn't really have much to do, but the chances he faced, right? JT Miller, point blank. Besser had a chance in front.
Bad save.
Patterson had a chance. Like, all of a sudden, he's thrust right into it after I said it was a walk in the park for the first half of the first period.
The only one that he didn't look quite right was on the Podkolzin wraparound try where he committed to his right. And McNabb comes over, gets his stick as Podkolzin tries to wrap it around the right post. That was the one where maybe Robin wasn't quite where you'd like him to be. But, as you said, I mean, the quality saves that he made were some of them were highlight saves there.
Yeah, the shorthanded breakaway Horvat had. He was.
And then overtime, obviously.
And then OT with all of a sudden you get Bo Horvat with a chance to win the game. So, you look at their goaltending situation, Dan, and we don't know the deal with Laurent Brossoit, right? He hasn't played here in a little bit. One of the 8 regulars that the Golden Knights have out of their lineup. You cannot say enough about the goaltending Logan Thompson has given them. He had started the previous 8 before last night. When they really needed some stability in that position with everything else that the team was going through. Then all of a sudden they have not one but both goaltenders out, and they've got their tandem is Logan Thompson and Yuri Patera. But they were able to find ways, and especially somebody like Thompson, and we all know his story, and just what a great story it is from East Coast League and playing at Brock University to all of a sudden in the heart of a push to the playoffs, he emerges as a guy that delivered in a crucial time in the season for them.
It's not the way that they drew it up, but you think about the times last year that Logan dressed. So he dressed 7 times. Once was February, and he actually played.
Right.
He made his debut, and that was in Minnesota. It was March, excuse me. He dressed in February once, but then played in March, played just about 8 minutes. But, then a couple of times he also dressed against the Colorado Avalanche in the playoffs. So you think about just being around the team, even though he wasn't playing a lot of minutes, just those 8 minutes in relief last year, he still was around the team. And when I've asked people, coaches and players about Logan Thompson, they've pointed that out, that he's been around the group. And that this year, though he didn't make an appearance until January and had that loss against Nashville, he has, found ways to get in and had gone back and forth to the American League, has that great game in San Jose in late February. That's his first win. And then this run of, as you said, Dave, starting 8 straight, 9 out of 10, and that kind of run of 8 consecutive games started, that is uncommon, not just for Logan Thompson or any Golden Knight goalie this year, but Marc-Andre Fleury only started more than 8 straight a couple of times in his Knights career.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a significant run for a goalie.
Yeah, no question. It's funny. So I did a little chat with him. It's actually a week ago today for Nightlife, which I think is going to air this week. But just to kind of give you a little bit of it, and I think we've talked about this. So he plays. Logan Thompson plays for Kelly McCrimmon and Brandon in the Western League, and he gets to the end of his junior career, didn't really have any offers. That's why he ends up going to play at university in St. Catharines, Ontario at Brock. So, he has this conversation on the phone with Kelly McCrimmon about, his playing future. And Kelly basically says, I don't know, Logan, if the pro game's going to be in the cards for you. And he ends the conversation, I guess, with, look, if you sign an NHL contract, I'll buy you a case of beer. So they leave it at that. And fast forward the time. Well, he signs an NHL contract with the team that Kelly McCrimmon's running. So I asked him in the interview the other day, I said, I prefaced, I gave it the whole preamble that I just gave you. I said, so my question is, have you received the case of beer yet? He goes, no, I'm too afraid to ask him for it.
Is the GM listening now?
I don't know, but yeah, get him a nice a case of something. But
maybe a keg.
Maybe,
the way
exactly.
He's gone here.
But yeah, it's what a story, and yeah, he's been able to, before last night. So the 4 wins in a row, before last night, now 5, but he had allowed 7 goals in the 4 wins, and 4 of those came in the game against Chicago.
Right.
So first shutout in Seattle last Wednesday, carries a shutout into the third period. Friday in Seattle.
It was over 120 minutes worth of shutout time.
Yep, and then obviously the Golden Knights win it with a couple of empty netters, 5-2. But just crucial at this time of the season. He's been able to step up.
And what do you think, Dave? Because all right, Leonard's back. Thompson is the backup for Leonard yesterday. I wonder what this all means in I don't want to say the big picture, but in the medium picture, not the next game necessarily, but 11 games to go here. What does this mean for the Knights' goaltending situation that Logan has not only played these 8 straight, 9 out of 10 as a starter, but has won as many and has been so successful?
I think to a degree, Dan, you'd have to wonder, would they want to get Leonard back into some sort of a rhythm, right? He's only played 1 game in a month, So my feeling was, or is, you play him again tomorrow. Play him again Wednesday, right, against Vancouver. Then maybe Saturday you come back with Thompson because you don't want him to sit, right, for too long either. You don't know where Brossoit fits in this equation. We don't know injury, if he's going to be able to come back and play at all.
March 15th was his last game.
Yeah, so we're 3 weeks down the road from that, right? So my thought would be get Leonard another game on Wednesday, then get Thompson back in there. You don't want him out too long. And then maybe and then they're back into this every other day thing again, right? On the road trip.
There's the one back-to-back left in the season.
Right.
Dallas, Chicago on the road.
Right. So I think now you can rely on both guys. I think you should feel that, right? Like Thompson, because that was kind of the unknown is, all right, Thompson's done it in the American League, but he's never had a run in the NHL with the exception of this one. How do you see it? How would you dole it out over the next little while?
The X factor is Robin Leonard's health.
Right.
And there's this odd progression with Brossoit. I should say with Brossoit it was a regression where he was good enough to back up but not good enough to start, and then it regressed to the point where he couldn't even back up, and that's why he's not dressing at all. Leonard's the other way around, where he was unavailable, then he got better, not quite good enough to start, but good enough that he could play and dress as a backup. And now you would imagine here that this all means percentage-wise that he's, from, I'm making it up, but 70%, 80%, 90%. How did he come out of last night's game? We don't know that. All signs were that he came out great, coming back from that 12-game break without starting a game. So that to me is the question. How does Robin respond? As we mentioned, as you just went through the days in between games, it makes it a little easier for Robin to recover, you would think. We don't know the injury side of it. To me, that's the X factor. But if Robin is good to go, like if the health is there and it's consistent and there's no, I'm sore now or something, whatever, if none of that is there, I mean, he's got to be the guy.
Yeah.
He's got to be.
Yeah, you'd run him. You'd run him Wednesday, Friday, then the road trip.
As long as there's no health concern, if he's good, that's why he's here.
Because that's the other side of that theory is if you're going to make it or not make it, you want to make it or not make it with your best players and your best goaltender.
Yeah, can you imagine if they're trying to get Logan a game in there and it doesn't go well, and then you're thinking, well, how come we're not putting out our number one guy who we signed to a 5-year contract? And again, that's all contingent upon Robin being at the level of health that he was for last game.
Yeah, and the results, unfortunately, with Brossoit, just they haven't been there. Right, he's lost 7 of his last 8 starts.
Yeah, I think from that point of view, it's Leonard and Thompson down the stretch.
I think that's got to be your tandem, right?
Yeah.
They can't afford to be splitting hairs much with this at this point in the season, to say the least. So. Yeah, a lot still to be determined with this team into the final 3 weeks of the regular season, 3+ weeks, I guess. But still very much in the thick of the playoff race in the West. Nighttime at noon with Dave and Dan with you on this Monday. A reminder for you that you can also always check out the spectacular Hotel Californian in Santa Barbara, California. It is the newest exciting addition to the Foley Entertainment Group. Experience an extraordinary stay in one of 121 luxury guest rooms and suites. Taste the region's finest wine at Foley Food and Wine Society Tasting Room, and treat yourself to an unparalleled massage at Majorelle, the Macaronian-inspired spa, all in the heart of the American Riviera. Designed for domestic and international guests alike, Hotel Californian is the perfect destination for any traveler seeking a one-of-a-kind luxury experience. Hotel Californian is Santa Barbara's premier urban destination. Check it out at hotelcalifornian.com to book your stay today. All right, one more segment to go. We're going to hone in a little bit more on the Golden Knights, but we also want to broaden it out a bit, take a look around the NHL. Some news and notes from around the league. Teams the Golden Knights are in this battle with for a playoff spot. We'll take a look at that after this on Fox Sports Las Vegas. All right, Dave Goucher, Dan D'Uva with you. One final segment here on Nighttime at Noon. You made the comment off the air, Dan, but look, I'm with you. We have not been to the Hotel Californian. I had that read before our last break. We could take this show on the road occasionally.
That's
occasionally.
my vote. Yeah,
yes.
that's a great idea.
Maybe once a month.
We could set up a studio like this down there, right? We do
my
shows on the road all the time.
Sure. Cross promote.
Why not?
Yep.
There? Right at the end of the Foley tasting room.
That's right.
That's where I would like it to be.
We could enjoy a tasting.
That's
Probably
what
not
I'm
while
thinking.
we're on the air.
No,
but,
but immediately off
Right.
the air, we would do that. Yeah.
Give
sign
our-
me up. I haven't been to Santa Barbara in a long time.
I haven't been in a few years.
Yeah, that's a great spot.
I want to say I went there All-Star break. Well, might have been. Well, I'm trying to think now. pre-COVID, so maybe in 19, I think 2019.
Oh, wow. It's been longer
been a few- yeah,
for
it's
me.
been a few.
I remember going in college.
Yeah.
I had a friend on the baseball team there. Isla Vista is where the excitement is for the college kids there. Good time as well.
Yeah, that's great. Good time had by all.
Flashbacks all of a sudden.
That's right. Well, the Golden Knights, couple of games this week. The Vancouver Canucks here again on Wednesday. Arizona Coyotes on Friday. We'll take a peek here. So the Golden Knights right now in the wild card spot, number two wild card spot, tied with Nashville. By the way, if you're looking for the tiebreakers, it's different now, right? It's wins in regulation.
Right, regulation wins.
Regulation, not regulation and overtime wins. Used to be that.
Right.
Not anymore. So if you go on, I'm looking at the NHL media site, but I think NHL.com has it as well. And look, there's a chance it could come to this down the road.
Yeah. The way it's going.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm staring at. Yeah, NHL has it up there. Regulation, so that column of RW, regulation wins. Right now the Golden Knights with 35. Predators with 31 and 32. Regulation and or overtime is now the second tiebreaker if it gets to that. The Golden Knights last night on that Shea Theodore goal, that was their fourth overtime win of the year. He has 2. Evgeny Dodonov has 2. So
Knights are 4-3 in overtime, and then there's the shootout side of it. The shootouts, they're 4-1.
Right, which wouldn't. It doesn't
help
factor in any of this.
No, it gets you points,
stuff down
but it
the
doesn't
road,
help
right?
you in the tiebreakers.
No. Speaking of Arizona, wish Clayton Keller well. Kind of fluky fall into the end boards the other night, broke his leg.
Very positive tweet that he sent out. Very encouraged, appreciates the support, getting ready for next year.
Surgery, and next game he'll be playing will be over at the new rink at Arizona State.
Speaking of college towns.
Right. Did a one and done at Boston University. You could go over there and continue the college experience.
Wow, that's
over at
Tempe, Arizona.
Over
That's
at
the place
ASU.
to be,
Yeah. How about Leon Draisaitl last night? Gets 50 goals and 100 points for the Edmonton Oilers. They've tell you that they make the coaching change, say goodbye to Dave Tippett, welcome in Jay Woodcroft, and they've been they've won 4 in a row, but they've been consistently better since that coaching change. I always wonder about the Smith-Koskinen goaltending tandem. Can they outscore their problems? If they, I don't know if they perceive it's a problem in that. It seems to others, me, that it is. Yeah. But Draisaitl gets to 50, and he's chasing Austin Matthews in the race for the Rocket Richard.
And one of the interesting things after the coaching change was how the Stars' minutes came down. Yeah. And we hear it all the time with the Golden Knights, the value of rolling 4 lines. And we've just discussed on the show with the result of defensemen coming back, how that allows everybody to focus on one thing or the next. I can only imagine what it's like for Connor McDavid to know that pretty much whenever he's caught his breath, he's going back out on the ice. And now, the way it's been tweaked a little bit, that there seems to not be quite as much on his shoulders, so that when he does go out there, now it's not about just getting through a shift, it's about maximizing that shift. I don't know. We're not there, and we'll see them in person in a week or two. But I wonder how much of the turnaround is the result of that, or if it's something else. Like with Vancouver, we heard all about how the forecheck under Boudreau, that's been a big reason for their turnaround. I wonder what they would – the season's not over yet. I wonder what they might point to in Edmonton as among the chief reasons for that.
Yeah, and it's they're a team that not making the playoffs for them this year just is not cannot be an option. I mean, if you're a member of that fan base, your patience is more than worn thin. Like it's worn out with their lack of doing much in the playoffs here over the last really since they went to the Cup final, right? Lost back in 2006. That's how long ago it was to Carolina. So Dallas Stars, they lose last night, as we mentioned, in Seattle. They're just a point back of the Golden Knights with 3 in hand. You mentioned, Dan, how it's, they've reduced the, McDavid and Draisaitl. They're trying to make it less taxing on them. In Dallas, they've seen like Sagan and Ben. They were carrying the load for so many years. Joe Pavelski, ageless wonder, leads the team in points.
Extension.
New contract extension. Jason Peterson's had a great year with 32 goals. Rope Hintz. It's kind of it's Hintz, Robertson, and the older guy Pavelski that they've really leaned on this year. They haven't had Miro Heiskanen out with mononucleosis. But Anton Hudobin done. Braden Holtby's got it's
Ben Bishop.
Ben Bishop done, and they've been able to and get on. They could never get any traction this year. You'd read the comments from Rick Bowness after some of their games. He was ready to lose his mind. I guess he's not losing it as much anymore because they made a strong push. But and again, I'll come back to that game. The game in Dallas, next to last game of the regular season for Vegas. Is that right? Chicago, Dallas, St. Louis.
Yeah, I think it's
Chicago,
Dallas, Chicago, St. Louis.
Dallas, so second to last game of the year. Yeah. Who knows? It could come. I hope it doesn't. I hope it's decided by then.
Well, that would make it exciting.
But it would be as exciting as all hell if
that'd be great
if that happened. All right. Well, our thanks to Floyd here, Sarah, Lauren, Jared back at the studio. Two play-by-play guys. Yapping away. It just flies
Podcast
by.
tomorrow, Dave.
Podcast tomorrow. SLGND, we're going to tape it after practice. Braden McNabb going to be our guest. Recently back in the lineup. Recently signed a contract extension. Great reminder, Dan. And we'll have that out, I would imagine, at some point. Late tomorrow. After.
Yeah.
So you're in charge of all that.
Push the right buttons.
And that's your list of duties. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to tune Insider Show. Millard, Wallace, Chapman, 4 to 6, right here on Fox Sports Las Vegas.